Tonight, the end of an era for a man both loved and reviled. Don Cherry is out after his Saturday rant against you people. The coach in the corner didn't change. The weight of public opinion did. Protests in Hong Kong take a violent turn. Also tonight, the sudden death of the man who helped Syria's White Helmets. And Rosie sits down with this year's Silver Cross mother.
You never think that they're going to get hurt badly because they're your children.
Remembering the service of veterans, honoring their sacrifice, lest we forget. This is The National. On the day set aside to honor veterans, legendary broadcaster Don Cherry was forced from his job at Hockey Night in Canada for his personal take on how those who serve are honored. 2 nights ago, he seemed to berate immigrants for supposedly not wearing poppies. His words divided Canadians just as they have for decades. But this time, at long last, for some, Cherry's blunt and unapologetic style ended his career. Lisa Shing shows us how it happened.
Hours before the news broke that Don Cherry was through, his comments were discussed at this Remembrance Day ceremony in his own city.
I wasn't wearing a poppy until just recently, but it was definitely something that was in my heart already.
He should have at least thought about it before he went on the air and said it.
Here's what got them and the rest of the country talking.
You people love they come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that.
That rant from the Coach's Corner star touched a nerve across Canada.
These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada.
At first, Cherry's employer, Sportsnet, issued an apology, as did his longtime co-host.
I owe you an apology, too. That's the big thing that I want to emphasize. I sat there, did not catch it, did not respond.
As Cherry stayed silent, this afternoon his critics got their wish. Rogers Sportsnet said, following further discussions with Don Cherry, it has been decided it is the right time for him to immediately step down.
The writing was on the wall for a little while now, but when it's time to go, it's time to go.
I think it's about time that he takes a much-needed retirement.
It's Don Cherry being Don Cherry, and it's getting scary that we can't say what we want in this country.
NHLers also weighed in.
Hockey's supposed to bring people together, and there's no place for stuff like that. So, I think it's the right decision to be made.
This is a pattern of behavior that we've seen repeated throughout the years, repeatedly over the last couple of decades. And I think finally, obviously, there are people out there that are saying enough is enough.
Don Cherry courted controversy for many years and was under contract with CBC for most of them. He may have lost his platform, but the founder of Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, says there still needs to be a conversation about what Cherry said.
There are far less younger individuals that I see who are not wearing the poppy or who are supporting the poppy. But we need to speak to them about it. We need to have a conversation with them about the importance of it. And I think that's the missed opportunity that Don Cherry had.
While others wonder if a simple apology could have saved his career. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
To the very end, Cherry maintained a legion of really loyal followers while also riling Canadians who called his viewpoints out of touch and destructive. Devin Haru examines the double-edged dynamic that kept him in the spotlight for decades.
That song, those suits, Saturday Nights with Don Cherry. For nearly 4 decades, the bombastic grapes, as many affectionately called him, spoke his truth.
How could you not like me on TV if you're a Canadian? Good old boy like me.
The cup is coming to Montreal. This guy's worse than McLean.
Never holding back, an unwavering supporter of Canadian troops.
Help the wounded. I'm sure they're their brothers. Help the wounded. Help the guys that are trying to get jobs. Help people like that. You know how many suicides there are for the Army right now? You'd be ashamed.
They don't like the Canadian flag.
He was polarizing, even offensive, like when he scorned certain players for wearing protective equipment.
Most of the guys that wear them are European or French guys.
Comments that forced CBC to temporarily implement a 7-second tape delay during his broadcast in 2004.
Actually, women in the National Hockey League, I think it'd be great. I think every dressing room should have one.
Then there was this.
Rope shoulders like this are usually for women. And so they wrote in and said I was, didn't say, they said homosexual, which I thought was nice. And
Cherry was unapologetic about how he sees the world, even when it landed him in hot water. Part of the reason why so many Canadians tuned in to Coach's Corner. You just never knew what Cherry might say next.
Fair shake in life. Go out and get your own fair shake in life and work for it. Don't give me that stuff.
Despite his style, or because of it, many Canadians adored Don, landing him in 7th spot when CBC set out to determine the greatest Canadian, even outranking Wayne Gretzky.
And they said, Don, you have to change. You just have to change. You can't go on the way you are. And I said, well, Johnny Carson hasn't changed, and I went from there, and I haven't changed, and I'm not changing now, and that's a little treat for you fellas.
Cherry didn't change, but the times did.
there shouldn't be fighting in the game.
You people love you. They come here, whatever it is.
Until this final blow proved to be too much for his employer, if not for Cherry himself.
Not the size of the dog in the fight, size of the fight in the dog. Remember that.
So, Devin, now that this is done, what are you seeing in terms of reaction to the end of Cherry's Coach's Corner career?
You know, Adrian, it's like it's always been with Don Cherry, two very strong points of view on both sides of this. So take, for example, the organization that enforces broadcast standards in this country. Over the weekend, so inundated with complaints from Canadians, they said, stop sending them. We just don't have the technical capability to take your complaints. And on the other side, tonight, you have Don Cherry is right, people coming to his defense, trending second in this country. So, like Don Cherry, and Coach's Corner has always been controversial, polarizing, and Adrian, it seems that's the case right up until the end.
We have not heard the end of this, I'm sure. Devin, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
So there was no official reaction from Don Cherry today, but the NHL had this to say. Well, we recognize Don Cherry's 4 decades of service broadcasting NHL games. Today's decision was a justifiable response to his comments on Saturday night. The opinions he expressed are in direct conflict with the values of diversity and inclusion that we embrace as pillars of our sport. And on this November 11th, Canadians pause to remember all the men and women who've served this country. Rosie is in Ottawa tonight, where the national ceremony took place. Rosie?
That's right, Adrian. And yes, it's a little bit cold here today, but that certainly didn't deter the crowds in any way. I'm at the National War Memorial, that is just steps from Parliament Hill, where earlier today at this place, tens of thousands came out to mark Remembrance Day. Hannah Thibodeau was there and has more on how the ceremony unfolded and the special meaning it had for veterans.
More than 30,000 people gathered at the National War Memorial to pay their respects to the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces. But the number of Second World War veterans is diminishing. Only 33,000 are still alive. The average age, 94. Robert Spencer has surpassed that.
He turned 99 years young yesterday.
Amen.
Amen, he said.
75 years ago, he played a pivotal role in the Normandy campaign. In the days following D-Day, his armored division was a part of the breakout from Juno Beach.
I think back to the old days. It's a long time ago, but the memory is fresh.
97-year-old Bill Anderson remembers it clearly today.
When you have that moment of silence, what do you think about?
Oh. All the nice things and the sad things. And they all mingled and jumbled together. It's a very big day.
He arrived by landing craft 6 days after 14,000 Canadian troops stormed the beach at Normandy.
I wanted to see and be seen and be part of the support our veterans deserve. It's so important for everybody to understand that there are things to be remembered, and the veterans have an opportunity to stand up and be counted.
That's exactly what today is about. Taking time to reflect on the service and sacrifices of all of those who serve. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Of course, it wasn't just here in Ottawa. There were ceremonies held across the country, a single thread of remembrance connecting Canada from east to west. In front of cenotaphs in Charlottetown and Vancouver, indoors in Winnipeg, out in the softly falling snow in Toronto, you could see in the faces of veterans pride, pain, honor, and horror fused and fixed in memory and in solemn moments today shared. Each year, the Canadian Legion selects one mother who performs a special role on Remembrance Day. A bit later in the show, we'll introduce you to Wren Sampson Daw, this year's National Silver Cross Mother. But first, back to Adrian with more of today's news.
All right, Rosie. Americans also paused today to honor their military service members, past and present. But their annual moment of silence was just the calm before a very big storm. Later this week, public hearings begin in Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry. And as Ellen Morrow reports, the partisan sparring has already begun.
As President Trump undertook his usual Veterans Day duties, albeit in New York, signs of just how unusual a time this is hung overhead. Literally, the words dump Trump, impeach, and convict staring down from skyscrapers. And on the streets, more signs, none too kind to the commander-in-chief. The president launched his own attacks, too, on Twitter against the whistleblower who he says gave so much false information. Trump also accused the Democrats of releasing doctored transcripts of closed-door testimony. Testimony from top officials in his own administration, describing an effort to force Ukraine to dig up dirt on Trump rival Joe Biden in exchange for much-needed military aid. Tonight, more testimony was released, including from the top Pentagon official on Ukraine. Laura Cooper told investigators she was alarmed when the aid was frozen, backing up allegations of a quid pro quo.
Welcome to Impeachment Square!
With impeachment hearings about to go public, divisions are only hardening. At the White House, those angry signs again.
He's cheated and lied his entire life, and therefore he's morally and ethically unfit to serve as the President of the United States.
That criticism is fuel for Trump supporters.
Is there anything Donald Trump could do that would make you not support him?
No.
Really?
No. Because he's done all the wonderful things that I want in my president. I want him to stand up for the rights of the American citizens.
Those citizens and the world will soon see something historic. Televised impeachment hearings live from Capitol Hill. Current and former officials grilled on whether the president and some of his aides abused their power for political gain. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
To Hong Kong now, where pro-democracy protests took an especially violent turn today. One man was shot, another set on fire, both caught on camera, all far too graphic to show you. But as Tina Lovegreen explains, there is no sign that anyone is backing down.
It's the kind of moment that could prove pivotal for the protest movement, one way or another. A scuffle between officers and demonstrators, then suddenly, police shot and wounded a protester at close range. He was taken to hospital for emergency surgery.
The officer fired 3 shots, including one that hit that man. After the gunshot, the man attempted to flee but was subdued by our officer instantly. We certainly believe our officer did not have bad intention to hurt anyone.
After 24 weeks of anti-government unrest, some clashes have happened during working hours, which has been rare.
I may get caught by the police or even tortured to death, but I won't care, because if I don't do something, the future of Hong Kong will be broken.
But not everyone agrees. A man who confronted a group of pro-democracy protesters was doused in flammable liquid and set on fire. The man is said to be in critical condition. Hong Kong's chief executive again called for calm.
Violence is not going to give us any solution to the problems that Hong Kong is facing.
News of heightened violence has people here concerned. This exhibit in Vancouver is showcasing the works of a well-known Hong Kong political cartoonist and raising money to support the student protesters.
But what we are seeing right now is a worrying trend that we are seeing a massacre in slow motion.
One thing's for sure, the protesters haven't slowed down. As the day turned to night, the rage continued as they dodged police. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, Vancouver.
The man whose efforts helped many trapped in Syria's civil war has died. Among many international tributes, Chrystia Freeland called the passing of James LeMessurier a terrible loss. LeMessurier played a key role with the White Helmets, and Renee Filipponi looks at his life and the investigation into his death.
James LeMessurier's body was found just outside his Istanbul home early this morning. There are reports he fell from the balcony. How that happened is unclear. The former British Army officer is being described as a humanitarian. He started the group Mayday Rescue, which trained the White Helmets, also known as the Syrian Civil Defense. Oz Chatterjee knew him for years. All day he's been getting messages from people who are shocked by his sudden death.
So many people looked up to James and admired him and respected him, and there is an overwhelming, sense of we've lost something and someone truly amazing.
The White Helmets have made headlines over the years. It claims to have saved tens of thousands of people caught in rebel-held areas during the ongoing civil war, who were targeted by Syrian government bombs backed by Russia, something LeMessurier talked often about.
They have all chosen to risk their lives to save others, and that makes every single one of them a hero.
The White Helmets say they aren't political, but the Syrian and Russian governments see them as tools of the West. A tweet from the Russian Foreign Secretary just days ago accused LeMessurier specifically of being a British spy with ties to terrorist groups.
The Russian charges against him that came out of the Foreign Ministry that he was a spy, categorically untrue. He was a real humanitarian, and the world, and Syria in particular, is poorer for his loss.
Turkish officials have launched a full investigation into his death. Meanwhile, the White Helmets say its work in Syria will continue, despite the loss of a leader who has left the group with a large hole. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
All right, time for a very quick break. We are back in 2 minutes with this story. The flamboyant history professor who now stands accused of murder. And later, the forgotten Canadians of the Afghan War.
Also coming up, an update on Ryan Strashnitsky, the Humboldt Bronco who was paralyzed in that 2018 bus crash. Take a look at the incredible video his father shared on social media today. Stay with us.
Welcome back. So you know this, truth is stranger than fiction, and sometimes it's more terrible too. The next story is definitely horrifying. It is, after all about a murder. But the details are so bizarre, so unlikely, they almost beggar belief. From the events surrounding the death in Russia to the man who admits to the murder. Chris Brown takes it on from Moscow.
Not only did Oleg Sokolov seem to love dressing up as Napoleon, acquaintances say he even called his girlfriends Josephine, after the French emperor's first wife, and had them call him sire. The Russian historian was so eminent, France had awarded Sokolov the Legion of Honor. He'd been in a long-term relationship with a former student, 24-year-old Anastasia Yaschenko. Early Friday morning, security video footage shows Sokolov stumbling, apparently drunk, throwing a large bag, possibly two, into the Moika River. What it doesn't show is that the bag had Yaschenko's body parts in it, and when it wouldn't sink, Sokolov dived in to retrieve it and was arrested. He appeared in court today, crying at one point. Russian media reported he allegedly shot Yaschenko after an argument Thursday night, had people over for dinner Friday, and then dismembered her body after they left. Police also found her remains in his flat. He makes a full confession, his lawyer said outside of court. He repents all that he has done as he confesses. The final part of his plan was apparently to commit a public suicide at St. Petersburg's historic Peter and Paul Fortress, but his arrest stopped that. Yaschenko's grieving parents, who came to court, told Russian TV they just wanted to collect their daughter's body and hoped her killer would get a long sentence. The gruesome case got full primetime treatment on Russian state TV. It showed a video of a younger Yaschenko receiving a prestigious honor, as lawyers debated whether the professor would plead insanity and essentially get off. Divers kept searching the Moika River for more of Yaschenko's remains, but apparently did not find any, though, weirdly, they did turn up a male skeleton, apparently unrelated to this case. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
All right, let's get to Ian in our Vancouver National Newsroom. He is watching some developing stories for us.
And Adrian, let's begin with that remarkable update on Ryan Strushnitsky. New video out today of the Humboldt Broncos hockey player moving his legs without assistance for the first time since last year's deadly bus crash. The moment caught on video by his dad. He's with the 20-year-old in Thailand as Ryan recovers from an experimental spinal surgery. Strushnitsky was paralyzed from the chest down when his team's bus collided with a transport truck last April. Much of central and eastern Canada bracing for the first winter storm of the season. Let's take a look at a live shot of City Hall in Kingston, Ontario, where snow continues to fall as the storm moves eastward. Special weather statements and warnings are in place from the Greater Toronto area through to New Brunswick. Some parts could see more than 25 centimeters of snow overnight, and weather delays have already affected thousands at Toronto and Ottawa's international airports. And tonight, an old friend becomes a foe for the Toronto Raptors as they visit Los Angeles to take on Kawhi Leonard and his Clippers.
Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Can't watch that too many times. A shot etched in the memories of Raptors fans. But tonight, the NBA superstar will be donning a different jersey after, we know, leaving in free agency. The first meeting between the reigning NBA champs and Kawhi, the finals MVP who led the team there. We're also keeping a close watch tonight on the area around Sydney, Australia. They're facing what authorities are calling an unprecedented and potentially catastrophic wildfire danger. We'll have the latest for you in 20 minutes.
All right, Ian, and just ahead in our Remembrance Day coverage, the loved ones left behind. Rosie's conversation with this year's Silver Cross mother.
That is Ren Samson-Daw. She is this year's National Silver Cross Mother, laying a wreath this morning on behalf of all mothers who have lost children while serving in the armed forces. Daw and her husband, Peter, a retired lieutenant colonel, raised 4 boys, all of whom joined the armed forces. Their eldest is currently a major general and commander of the Special Operations Forces, but their youngest, Matthew, is gone, killed in Afghanistan. Last week, I spoke to her about that sacrifice and the road forward.
Ren, thank you for making the time.
You're very welcome.
What was it like to raise 4 boys who would all then become soldiers, follow in Dad's footsteps? What was that like?
Well, you can imagine what it's like to have 4 boys growing up in the same house. It was at times chaotic, noisy, but we always try to have a loving, stable environment, and you don't think of what they're going to be doing when they're older, really. And then the military involvement came on gradually.
Tell me what Matthew was like. So he was the youngest. He was the
Yes.
last to enter the military.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he admired his big brothers and his dad, and
Yeah.
that was part of it. What was he like?
Yeah. Oh, he was funny, intelligent, mischievous, loved the arts too. He was an actor. He was an incredible mimic. He would imitate his dad, his teachers, or any personality that he saw would be, or any character in a movie. He could recite lines, complete lines of Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he
Perfect.
absolutely loved that movie.
Was there ever a moment where you said or you thought, oh no, we can't all be in the military. I don't want you all exposing yourself to
No,
risk, and you don't all have to give back to the country. Was there ever a moment like that?
Not precisely like that, Rosemary, but I would certainly remember the moments that I found out that each one of them was going to a mission, especially in Afghanistan, and I would have like almost a mini heart attack. But I always try not to show that too much in front of the boys, because they had made those choices. They wanted to do what they did, and on a couple occasions I kind of broke down and but walked away, and the boys didn't really want me to do that. So even when we said farewell to Matthew as he was leaving, I was very stoic and didn't want them to suffer the worry and the pain that I was going. That was mine and it wasn't theirs, and I didn't want to add to their burden.
So you talked about how you didn't cry, but how did he feel about going over?
He had the option of not going a couple of times because he was finished with his 2-year term as a platoon commander. That was the norm, you do this and then you go on to a next job. But at the end of that, his platoon was to go to Afghanistan. So he went to his commanding officer and he said, I can't let my guys go. We've trained together, and you would send them over there in a dangerous place with a new commander who doesn't know who they are, their personalities and so on. He said, no, I'm going.
Tonight, we're greatly saddened by the loss of these great young Canadians.
Matthew Daw was killed July 4th, 2007. He was on a mission with his platoon to find the maker of an improvised explosive device that had killed 3 members of his team just 2 weeks before. Daw's vehicle hit a powerful roadside bomb. He was killed along with 5 other Canadian soldiers and an Afghan interpreter. He was one of the highest-ranking members to be killed at the time, a decorated soldier and platoon commander.
Matthew had promised me he would come back. And it's silly, but you hang on to that, and you don't think it's the same way that they go hiking or skiing or mountain biking, and you never think that they're going to get hurt badly because they're your children.
Did it make you angry? Did you have anger, or were you?
No,
No,
I
it wasn't
can't
where
say
you
I
wanted
was
to go.
angry.
Yeah.
because somebody asked me, you must hate the guy who pressed the button to detonate that bomb. And you know, the first thing that came to my mind, Rosemary, it might sound trite, but it's not, it really did. I thought, well, he was probably a trained soldier too. And I'm sure he has a mom who's mourning for him as well, because I heard after that he had been killed also. So, you know, I can't hate him. Why would I? I feel for my son. I don't have any particular feeling for, certainly not hatred for the guy who killed Matthew.
Tell me about Lucas, who was 2 when his dad died. Tell me about how he reminds you of Matthew, what he knows of Matthew.
Oh, he reminds me so much of Matthew that I keep calling him Matthew even to this day. I go to his hockey game and I'll shout, "Go, Matt! Go, Lucas, go!" So, but he's very much like his dad. Physically, he has the same build, the same posture. He walks the same. He's got the sense of humor. He's a good mimic as well, and he's a really good kid.
Does he ask about being a soldier? Does he think about being a soldier? Where is his head? No, I know he's little.
He's 14, so he doesn't know what he wants to do. Of course, I think I would be worried if he went there in a way, but having said that, he would be a perfect candidate. He's athletic, he's a leader as well. But having said that, I certainly reminded Lucas that he's his own person, okay? He can do whatever he wants to do. Even though I call him Matthew on occasion, I will always love him for whatever he decides to do, and will always be behind him. So he's his own person, and he doesn't have to be his dad.
Talk to me about why you wanted to stay involved with Afghanistan. You know, a lot of Canadians have forgotten about Afghanistan.
Yes.
Why was that so important to you?
Well, that was probably part of the mission. The mission of Canadians for Women in Afghanistan is to promote the education of women and girls in Afghanistan, and to bring an awareness of human rights in Afghanistan to the general public. And why do we have to do this? Well, because that mission was very costly in lives, in all the traumas of the people who came back with physical and mental issues, and of course to all the families who've lost people. And to me, that's the best way to carry on with the mission. And if we can't finish it militarily, then we can certainly support the people who are there. And we have made a lot of progress. There are a lot more girls in school, people in school. We have teacher colleges, we have even e-education, you know, they have internet access in many different ways. We have libraries all over the different provinces in Afghanistan. So, and I strongly believe that if you educate the women, it's the bottom line to educate a nation.
A privilege to meet you. You're
Thank
full
you.
of grace.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a really impressive family, all of them. The focal point of the ceremony in Ottawa earlier today, behind me, the National War Memorial, was built for Remembrance, its history beginning with the war that claimed more Canadian lives than any other. It was 80 years ago this year that King George VI officially unveiled the memorial, originally built to mark Canada's sacrifice in the First World War.
Without freedom, there can be no enduring peace, and without peace, no enduring freedom.
Peace and freedom, those values symbolized by 2 bronze figures sitting atop the granite arch. Marching through the archway, 22 sculptures representing the Canadians who have answered the call to serve. And directly in front lies the tomb of the unknown soldier, a poignant reminder of the 116,000 men and women who fought and died for their country. Over the years, the memorial has been rededicated to honor all Canadians who have served in times of war. The Boer War, the Second World War, the Korean War of the 1950s, and the decade-long mission in Afghanistan. And it's the mission in Afghanistan that brings us to another story, this one about the forgotten. They were Canadian citizens who had some of the most dangerous assignments in that war, but then they were abandoned by the Canadian government. That's still ahead. That is the scene tonight at the National War Memorial, where earlier today, tens of thousands attended the National Service of Remembrance here. Welcome back to Ottawa on this Remembrance Day. A group of civilian advisors is fighting for recognition. Afghan Canadians were the eyes and ears of the Canadian Army in Kandahar. They served alongside soldiers on some of the most dangerous missions. But after they came home, some say Canada turned its back on them. Murray Brewster now on an investigation into their care.
These are both service medals given by the Canadian Armed Forces.
Bashir Jamal Zada has a box full of medals and memories, and not all of those memories are good. He is part of a small, vital group, Canadian citizens of Afghan origin, civilians selected by the Canadian military at the outset of the war in Kandahar for their language and ability to decipher an inscrutable Afghan culture. More than interpreters, some of them eavesdropped on insurgent communications. Others, unarmed, went into the community to gather intelligence on the Taliban, a dangerous cat-and-mouse game that took its toll.
In Canada, nobody knows about our team, about our group.
65 Afghan Canadian advisors were hired by the Defense Department, and many of them served multiple tours, returning 5, 6, even 7 times.
I wanted to basically help two countries that they belong to.
They were trusted, given security clearances, code names to protect them from Taliban retribution. Some were assigned to work with the elite special forces, and for Canadian commanders, the advisors were indispensable.
In many cases, what they picked up on those radio transmissions saved Canadian and coalition lives by interdicting perhaps any type of an attack.
It was dirty, dangerous work. For Bashir Jamal Zata, the worst day was June 22, 2006, an almost 18-hour road trip to get back to the safety of Kandahar airfield.
When we got to Maiwand, our convoy was hit by an IED. Basically, the vehicle behind our vehicle.
And then, hours later, the convoy was hit by a suicide bomber, leaving 1 soldier wounded.
And he lost his left hand, and blood was everywhere in our vehicle. Post-traumatic stress disorder, that's something normal for everybody who comes from a battle zone or a war zone. I have bad dreams most of the times. I had sleeplessness. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I cannot go back to sleep.
When Canada withdrew from combat in the summer of 2011, many advisors came home, only to discover, as federal contract employees, they were ineligible for the same federal PTSD and health benefits as soldiers.
In fact, what they were told to do was to apply to provincial workplace safety boards. CBC News has documented the cases of half a dozen former Afghan advisors, some with cases stuck in the system for years.
Have we failed them? Yes, we have. Because I think they have, we have not recognized fully yet the benefit, either as a federal public service or as an employer, we have not fully recognized what the solution needs to be for them.
The country's military ombudsman conducted a low-key investigation. The Defense Department knew in 2005 it needed rules governing the use of civilians in war zones. It developed a draft policy, but it did not implement it until 4 months after the war was over.
It's hurting. It's really hurting. Our group was treated like they didn't exist.
Marie Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Coming up, a Remembrance Day moment. But first, how the discovery of some wartime letters has changed the life of a Saskatchewan woman.
Welcome back to our national newsroom in Vancouver. The former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has been admitted to an Atlanta hospital tonight. In a statement released this hour, the Carter Center says the 95-year-old will undergo a procedure to relieve pressure on his brain related to recent falls. Carter is the oldest living U.S. president. He broke his pelvis this past May and required stitches after a fall at his Georgia home last month. We're keeping a close watch on Australia tonight. A state of emergency has been declared in New South Wales as officials warn of catastrophic fire conditions. It is already early Tuesday afternoon in Sydney. Temperatures there could reach 37 degrees, and forecasters are predicting powerful winds. Military helicopters are on hand to help with evacuations if necessary. Hundreds of schools are closed due to the threat of the fires. More than 50 of those are burning across the state. And violence has spilled into the streets of Bolivia following the resignation of President Evo Morales. Groups of people have been roaming the streets, looting, fighting, rioting. Businesses were attacked, property set on fire. The commander of the armed forces told troops to team up with police to go after groups of vandals. Morales stepped down yesterday after an investigation into the October election found, quote, irregularities. Several other high-ranking government officials have also resigned. Not clear who the successor will be. A major announcement today from the UK's Brexit Party in a move to try to prevent splitting the vote in the upcoming election.
The Brexit Party will not contest the 317 seats the Conservatives won at the last election.
That is the leader, Nigel Farage. He says his party will only contest seats held by non-Conservative parties. Farage said his goal was to prevent another referendum and make a hung parliament much less likely. It's an about-face after the party signed candidate forms for 600 constituencies last week. Still ahead on this Remembrance Day, a love story from Montreal is our moment. But next, how a home renovation in Saskatchewan revealed a treasure from the Second World War.
Welcome back. Before email, handwritten letters were the lifeline connecting soldiers and their families. Those weathered pages revealing tales of loneliness and love. But for one Saskatchewan woman, it's taken nearly 80 years to receive a letter from her father, and it's changed her life. The CBC's Bonnie Allen shares the story.
At the age of 81, Connie Reguer remembers how, as a little girl, she would pine for the father she barely knew. During the Second World War, Corporal Sidney Wilson served overseas on the front line for nearly 5 years.
Father is leaving us.
She wrote this poem and describes the moment her father returned home a stranger.
Hiding behind the stuffed chair. I'm 7 and know enough not to talk to strangers.
Just as she wrote those words, Derek Madigan uncovered a stack of mysterious papers inside his attic wall. He was doing home renovations and found children's drawings and letters from a soldier to his wife and kids.
My own darling, I said last night you wouldn't get any more letters from me in 1944, but it looks like you're going to get another. I have been thinking about you and the kids all day and wishing I was spending this new year with you.
Signed, Love to the Kids, Dad. All my love, your Sid. Madigan delivered them to the local Legion into the hands of manager Connie Nightingale.
In our Vimy room, we have the Veterans Photo Gallery.
By sheer coincidence, it happened just before she met the other Connie to talk about her poem and her father.
She told me his name, and I just about fell out of my chair, being that these letters that had just been brought to me the day before, I had already pulled these records.
Serendipity, nearly 80 years in the making.
I cried and I cried and I cried. I opened them and saw his handwriting, and I realized how vulnerable he was. He was so young.
Reguer says her father came home a tortured soul, but stoic and distant. These letters speak to her in a way he never did.
I couldn't talk to you when I was alive. I'm talking to you now.
Can you remember him saying the words, "I love you"?
No.
And yet here?
It's all over.
And on this day, she meets and thanks Derek Madigan, the man who found a piece of history and helped her rewrite her own. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Weyburn, Saskatchewan.
Amazing. Stay with us now. We have a special Remembrance Day moment coming up. It's a love story from Montreal when Howard met Annie, a romance still going strong even after 7 decades. As we remember the sacrifices made by Canadians who served, a couple of veterans, an actual couple, take us back to their wartime experience and how they met. Howard and Annie McNamara both joined the war effort. Howard as a fighter pilot, Annie as a variety show dancer. And they met each other after the fighting stopped. Their story, their love story, is our moment.
Well, that's when we got married, and that was 71 years ago.
We decided to join up to fight this guy, because at that age, nothing bothered us.
All the boys were leaving, and I said, gee, I don't want to be left here, so I went too. He knew I was a dancer, and I knew he was a pilot. Finally, one night, we started to dance together, and that's how we met. And we knew then that something was going to happen.
Yeah, when it hits you, you say to yourself, that's it.
Nobody ever talked about the war. No one. When they got overseas, a lock went on the mouths of everybody that had been overseas. Isn't that true? Nobody talked about the war.
Annie is 98. Howard's going to be 100 in about 6 weeks or so, and they remind me so much of some of the veterans we saw here today. You know, the Second World War veterans, there's about 33,000 of them left in this country, and it's so important to hear directly from them, even if it's a love story like that.
And something that will also remind a lot of people watching, I'm sure, who have relatives who served in the wars, is that reference to the fact that so few people spoke about it. And according to our notes, even they, as a couple, and all the shared experiences they had, rarely talked about the war.
And what a couple it is. Howard has plans. Apparently, he's heading overseas at the end of November to visit some of the war cemeteries. There's a lot more life in those, too. That is a national for this Remembrance Day, November the 11th.